Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the Mets of New York town. Oh, the butcher and the baker and the people on the streets, where do they go? To meet the Mets. Oh, they're hollering and cheering and they're jumping in their seats, where do they go? To meet the Mets. All the fans are true to the orange and blue, so hurry up and come on down, 'cause we got ourselves a ballpark, the Mets of New York town. Give 'em a yell, give 'em a hand.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to another Mets RoundTable PodCast with Hayden and Nelson. Unfortunately, Chris could not join us, but he might come in with a cameo later in the show. But for now, it's us three today, and we are going to talk about, of course, our damn New York Mets. We all broken records at this point. The negativity is floundering across social media, and the Mets found a way to lose another series to a team that they basically gave a game to and gave a series to, just like many other times this year. And hopefully everybody's enjoying their night. And don't forget to please hit on that like button, subscribe to all the channels so you get all the content that you need from us, from Hayden to Chris to Nelson, all those guys. You know, Chris and Nelson got their own show going on. Nelson will talk about that in a second, but we are going to start first by going around the table, getting our thoughts and opinions on this Mets team and the 6 games left until the trade deadline. We got 2 with the Yankees and 4 with the Nationals. So it's do or die for the Mets. It's going to determine if this organization is going to be sellers, buyers, or they're going to stay pat. So we're going to start with Nelson. Nelson, how you doing, buddy? Let everybody know about your channel and about what you do with Chris and that show and everything else you're going to be doing with the content going forward, buddy. How you doing?
Good. I hope you guys are having a good night. Yeah, thanks again for having me on. Missing Chris, but hopefully he'll be able to show up a little later. But yeah, I'm Nelson, aka the Amish Country Mets Fan. I got a YouTube channel here. It's at Amish Country Mets Fan. If you guys could jump over maybe after the show, if you're watching on either one of the other channels, and give it a like and a subscribe, that'd be great. Me and Chris, the other half of my show on Tuesdays and Fridays, the Interstate Mets Report. We do a show Tuesdays at 5 p.m., Fridays at 4. Just basically doing a lot of same stuff we do here, recapping the Mets series and talking about whatever news pops up. This coming episode, we're going to be talking a little bit about what we might be dealing with in the free agent market next year and what's available. So, yeah, if you guys could go check that out, we'd greatly appreciate it. And again, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. So make sure you check out Nelson and Chris, and of course both of their channels. So, Nelson, what do you think the Mets are 7 games out right now? Philly just are tied with the Giants and the Reds for the 3rd wild card spot. And go figure, the Mets are 8.5 out of the 1st wild card spot, because everybody has actually come back down to earth. Even though the Mets have been terrible, there's teams that have been absolutely terrible over the last 2 weeks. The Reds 2-8, the Marlins they were 2-8, the Reds were 2-8, the Giants just lost 6 in a row, got swept by the Nationals. I mean, nobody's really running away with this wild card at all. And if the Mets actually were somewhat competent, they can actually be a lot closer than what they are. So give me your thoughts on the next 6 games and we'll get more into the details with the recap and the Subway Series. But give me your thoughts about this Mets team, 7 games out. Do you think they're going to be buyers or sellers, or you think they're still in limbo here, going to the deadline a few days away?
Knowing the front office, they're probably in limbo. They shouldn't be. This team has proven time and time again they're not good enough. I say they need to sell regardless of what happens this week. The way I see it, they're probably going to split with the Yankees because they usually split with the Yankees lately. It's been pretty common theme. We split the 2-game sets. And then Washington, I mean, they stink, but we can't beat bad teams most of the time anyway. So probably it's a 4-game set. Usually split those 2. I mean, maybe they could take 3 out of 4, but at that point, regardless, we're still going to be under 500. We're still probably going to be 6-7 games back. I just don't see the point in buying at this point. I mean, maybe I could see a deal like they did a few years ago where they brought in Stroman, even though they weren't really going anywhere, just to have somebody in line for next year. Maybe they pull something like that off. But other than that, I feel like they should sell and, yeah, just get ready for next year because this team has, I mean, we saw it this weekend. They aren't good, man. They just don't look like a good baseball team.
Yeah, as bad as the Red Sox were, the Mets were worse. Like it was like a circus. I mean, I was at the games, and it was literally like the Bad News Bears. Like, who can make the most errors in a ball game to lose a game? Like, that's how it felt. Nobody. It looked like they never played baseball before. That's how bad it looked for both teams. I mean, nobody deserved to win that series. Somebody had to, but nobody deserved it. So, yeah, I agree with you. So, yeah. I mean, honestly, the Mets have to go 5-1 or 6-0 to actually, because I mean, I don't think anybody in front of us are actually going to be any good at all. And the best records over the last 10 games for any of those teams was 6-4, and that was the Phillies about a week ago. They've been 5-5, 4-6, and everybody else has been worse underneath. So, I mean, the only way the Mets have a chance, and this is not even optimistic, it's not even pessimism at this point. It's just, simple math. The Mets have to go 5-1 or 6-0 to break some ground in this 7-game back of a wild card spot. Is it possible? Yeah. I mean, anything's possible, but I mean, it doesn't look good for this team at the moment, especially the way they've been playing. One day it's the offense, they show up, then they don't show up for 2 games. Pitching shows up, the offense doesn't show up. It never really has connected all season, and it's been basically the MO of this team for 2023. So we're going to take it over to Hayden. Hayden, how you doing? Obviously, talk about your channel, as always.
Sure.
And give me your thoughts for the last 6 games before the deadline. And I can see it on your face. Is there hope?
Yeah, I mean, hope would be a very strong term. But, yeah, what's going on, everyone? Mets Talk with Hayden here. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. Hopefully, really, no big shock to see me. Yeah, Mets live streams, news, content, big on the minor leagues, prospects, A-ball, analytics, all that stuff I'm very interested in. So if you guys want to check me out, please do. Great to be working, obviously, with Rob as per always, and then obviously new to the channel, Nelson. So that's really good. And hopefully our other friend Chris will be here momentarily. So definitely check out all of that great stuff. But yeah, the last, the next couple games, the next 6 games are, I mean, I don't want to say going to be determining whether the Mets are going to buy, sell, or halt, or be still at the deadline. I kind of feel like that's been the case for probably since the All-Star break has ended for the past week. But, you look at it right now, the Mets play 2 against the Yankees and 4 against the Nationals. And I have no confidence whatsoever. 0 confidence. I mean, call me the most negative Mets fan out there. Go for it. I have no confidence. I have never felt the way that I felt right now that at any point of the season. I've never felt this way, which can include after the Detroit series, after the first National series, after any series. I don't see how they could pull off a series win against the Nationals or the Yankees. I think maybe they'll split one. I think they'll split the series against the Yankees 4 games against the Nationals, I think they'll split it. I think they'll take 2-2. These games are going to be pivotal. And I mean, yeah, are they going to necessarily determine, who goes, who stays? Probably not. I mean, kind of just recapping from what I've said in the past, I think at this rate, the Mets just don't do anything. You're not buying, you're not selling. Just keep what you have and fight till the end with it. I really don't think it's worth it. And, a lot of teams in baseball, I'm not saying the Mets are going to get on anything, but you know what the second half means? Teams go on the rise and teams collapse. I mean, you look at the Miami Marlins, 2-8 in their last 10. You look at the Cincinnati Reds, 5-5 in their last 10. Arizona Diamondbacks, 2-8 in their last 10. Yep. You want to hop over to the AL, because why not? Rays, 3-7 in their last 10. That's baseball. It's a 162 game season. Teams go on the rise and teams go on the decline. But whether the Mets are going to turn it around, probably not. I don't really know what the Mets' approach at the deadline is. If you're going to sell, like we've said in the past, it's going to be like the Baltimore Orioles deadline last year. You're going to get away all your rentals and veterans that have expiring contracts who don't necessarily offer a lot to this team. Mark Canha, Tommy Pham, David Robertson. I don't imagine anyone's going to want to pick up that Marte contract, so I don't think I can include his name. Guys like the Escobars of the world. Even if you were to buy, I like the point Nelson brought up with Stroman a couple years ago, because the Mets weren't really in a position then either. I mean, the pitching was a little bit of their concern. Their offense wasn't bad then. I think their big worry was the bullpen and their pitching. I mean, now you have issues left and right, so it's kind of hard what to address now. But you never know. I think if there's a certain situation where if they can get the right guy for the right price, I wouldn't be against it, as long as it's not, trading, all, 3 big tier prospects for a rental or anyone like that. That'd be absurd, like a Javi Baez, like we saw in 2021, because that obviously didn't pan out. But we're going to see how it goes. But next 6 games, I really don't have any confidence. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they go 1 for 5. But when it comes down to the trade deadline, if I'm the GM, if I'm Billy Epler and have a brain cells working in my head, I would probably just halt. I just let the season ride out. Whether they get hot, they get hot. Whether they lose every single series for the rest of the season, they lose it. I honestly just ride out with what you have. I don't really think it's worth selling guys. I don't think it's worth trading away guys.
Okay. Yeah. Somebody brought up, like Nelson said about the Stroman situation, and I think Chris just popped up. So let me just pop him up here so we can get into him. Just give me 1 second, guys. All right. There we go. Where are you? All right. Give me a second, guys. We get in there at some point. Give me a second. I don't know why it didn't change. Hold on, Chris. I got you. Sorry, guys. Get a little tech. Oh, there we go. All right. There we go.
There he is.
There he is.
Apologies.
Mr. Big Time over here showing up fashionably late.
Apologies.
All right, Chris. So take at it. Let everybody know about your channel. And 6 games until the deadline. Your thoughts, opinions, and advice for this team.
I don't know what you guys already got into, but what we've been witnessing in that Red Sox series is just absolutely despicable. At this point, it's got to be a fire sale at this point. I tweeted it out. If you don't follow me on Twitter at CPNY Sports, make sure you follow me on Twitter. See some familiar faces in the comment section here. My advice is Steve Cohen needs to learn the game a little bit quicker. There's no reason Danny Mendick should be coming up and down, looking like he's been looking. Ronnie Mauricio, we're going to see. All eyes are on him. Going to be after on the trade deadline. After the trade deadline, I talked about it on the Interstate Mets Report with me and Nelson, the Ronnie Mauricio talk post deadline. But everybody's got to go at this point. We're 46-53. As you can see on the screen, we can't get to 500. It's just bad. It's just a bad look. So I'll let you guys continue the flow of what you guys have been talking about. But it's not looking good, guys. It's just a bad time to be a Mets fan right now. But sorry to interrupt. Sorry to be fashionably late. But yeah, looking
So
forward
good.
to hearing
It's
some
so
more
good.
Discord stuff with you guys.
It's like the Mets team in itself. They show up late to the game always, right? So that's how it goes. Yeah, absolutely. So Chris is here now. We got the core four here, I guess you can say, right here on the channel, and of course the show. So yeah, guys. Again, it's obvious what's going on, going through the table, right? What is it? It's been a lot of negativity. The key is to get to 500. We all know that, right? There is no conversations to be had about anything if they don't get to 500. They can't even win out before the deadline and be over 500. You just can't. You could be a game under, even if you do go 6-0. Is that enough for the organization to talk about being buyers? I don't know. Who knows, right? I mean, I know we talked about this a couple of weeks ago on the other shows, on a couple of other shows about how many games back should this team be to think about them being buyers or at least staying pat instead of being sellers. Chris said 5. Some people said 5. I say 3. I think I think Chris is right. I think the organization is going to look at it in a different way because of our schedule. Every team that's in front of us, we play except for, I believe, the Brewers and the Giants. Everybody else we play. In the last 2 weeks of the season, it's all Marlins and Philadelphia. So, yeah, it is possible because of the fact of what the schedule looks like, but it's going to determine what they actually believe. If they're actually, look, I don't think they're doing their job if they don't take calls to be sellers and make calls to be buyers. I think they need to be doing both. And I think Biller needs to be up 24/7 doing that. Nobody has confidence in him. We don't know how he's going to be as a seller. We clearly know he's shit when it comes to being a buyer because he can't do that job. So we don't really know. We know Artie Moreno when it was come to Billy Epler. It was mostly Artie Moreno running the show and telling Billy Epler what to do most of the time, especially when he didn't want to get rid of some players. Like Artie Moreno should trade Ohtani and get a haul back, but he probably won't because he wants that every bit of money, especially if he's going to go for that home run race in the American League. So it's a lot of things to look at. Is Cohen telling him, give us until the day before the deadline or the next couple of games to see, if we sweep the Yankees and going into that national series and we're about 6 or 5 games out of a wild card spot, maybe he'll say hold off and wait for the first 2 games of the national series. I think they're in limbo, and I think Nelson agreed about them being in limbo. I think they don't know. And I don't know if that's a bad thing or a good thing, to be honest with you guys. Either way, I still see it as, Hayden says, stay pat, don't sell, don't buy. Just, if you happen to go on a run with the team you got, great. It'll be fun. If it's not, well, it's been what we've been seeing the last couple of months. But I'm gonna start. We're gonna start with the recap of the Red Sox series, even though there's not a lot to talk about. Besides, I was there. It was fun. There was a ton of Mets fans there. I know the 7 line was there on Saturday, but Friday before we had the flood at Fenway, and the Saturday when they had the game and a half, it was insanely loud. Mets fans. Honestly, I've been to many ballparks where the Mets played. I never heard it as loud. Like if it wasn't 50-50 on Friday, part of Friday until the game was suspended, and Saturday, and even on Sunday, it was really loud. I mean, let's go Mets chants were actually louder than the Red Sox chants. Like it was pretty cool to see, and it's nice to see that Mets fans still try to make the most of it and try to pump up their team, even though they give us no confidence and basically don't even make us feel any good ever. So it was pretty cool. But I'm going to start, since Chris popped up just now, I'm going to start with him. So the Red Sox series, what was the most disappointing thing in this series that says basically this is the 2023 in a nutshell at the moment?
I think it's got to be Trevor Gott. I mean, that guy's bad. I mean, it's just that was probably the most gut-wrenching thing that I saw in that series. I mean, there's a lot, but that's probably one of them. And that guy just keeps doing this consistently. You talk about the trade, and you get Chris Flexen, and then you cut him because you really wanted Gott. And I think it was you, Rob, who retweeted off your Twitter or somebody retweeted it that Chris Flexen's killing it in the Rockies minor league system right now in AAA, and we got this guy he's just blowing games left and right for the Mets. So, I mean, that's been the low point even before the Red Sox series, but that was a big gut punch in I think that was the second game, right? That happened that he kind of imploded again. So that was the standout thing for me. I actually wasn't able to watch that game fully. I was actually at the Nationals game out in DC that day, but I was following my phone and I was like, we're up, we're up, we're up. And then, Trevor Gott, I mean, that guy's just bad. So, but just a lot of things. I mean, eh, yeah, I don't even know what to go at this point. But yeah, Trevor Gott, that guy needs to get out of here. I think
He's
Hayden and
bad.
I had some discourse on Twitter that he needs to be DFA'd immediately. So at this point, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not beyond calling anybody out on this team. Trevor
I
Gott, Carlos Carrasco, who in a pivotal rubber match game, he goes 2 1/3 inning, classic Cookie Carrasco start, and I just I just don't understand how a team like the Mets, who had World Series aspirations, were okay. And I'm not sure what other options they really had. I mean, obviously we had the discourse about Bassett, Walker, whatever before the season, but trotting Cookie Carrasco out there every fifth day is a recipe for disaster, like bar none. He doesn't have any life on his fastball. He can't get hitters out. His changeup, if it's not working, he's useless out there. So I didn't have good feelings about that game, regardless when I saw his name pop up. But on Sunday Night Baseball, that's just adds insult to injury at that point. So Trevor Gott and Carlos Carrasco are my two big losers from that Red Sox series. And you know what? Again, as bad as the Mets have been, that was a series. It's like if we come away with a win in that series, maybe I can start, I can still be somewhat positive and maybe we can build off of it. But at this point, and I know Nelson and we have talked about it endlessly. Like Nelson's just been out of it for the Mets and he's been just, we've been talking about it and I've been holding out hope, but yeah, it's done now. But ugly series, but I did see you at the game, Rob. I hope you had fun, regardless of the flood. Maybe that was fun within itself. I saw some people belly flopping in the rain. So
Yeah,
Pretty fun.
I definitely retweeted that and put that on my channel because it was hilarious. Like, I mean, we were literally basically drowning at Fenway, to be honest with you. So, I mean, it was kind of crazy, like how everything happened. That's what happens when you got a ballpark that's over 100 years old, right? I mean, it's just, what are you gonna do? They can't raise it, I don't think. So, it is what it is at this point. All the accommodations and all the renovations they made make the ballpark look better, but it's an old ballpark. We all know that. But yeah, it's a great ballpark to watch a game. I'm not gonna lie, it's great. So yeah, but yeah, Chris, I get your point with that. Yeah, it's you say Trevor Gott, and Carrasco. So Hayden, I'm gonna turn to you right now. Your biggest takeaway from that Red Sox series, what is the biggest thing that you says, yep, that's exactly what I thought was going to happen? What player in general or players you really disappointed in this series?
Yeah, well, I mean, this series pretty much determined what the Mets have been this whole season. They had a mixture of an adequate offense to a crappy start from a starter who can't even go long into a game, and your bullpen just blowing it away. Doing a really small diving into the series. You look at it, game one, there was the rain delay. Senga pitched well. I know the slash line was a little, I know he had that error, which kind of made his stats look a little bit not as great. But, unfortunately, like I said, the rain delay kind of got to the best of him and made him leave the game after 3 1/3. But even then, I think he was just dialing in. I think the first 2 innings just, I don't know if it was just a miscommunication with the catcher with Alvarez or really what the issue was, but kind of just 2 long balls that kind of got him a little bit. Weren't home runs, but hit relatively hard. But like I said, you come in and, I mean, you ask your bullpen to give you 6 innings, and I said, oh, well, that's the game right there. Yeah. But, I mean, tip of the cap to Hartwig. I mean, he has been a phenomenal bullpen piece for this season, came out of nowhere. David Peterson tried to blow the game really hard, but Buck Showalter didn't let him. Leone, Raley, Robertson, the bullpen did well, and the offense, power. Like we said, power wins ball games. So game 1 was good. You go into game 2, and, well, that's, what you see from Max Scherzer. Said he's washed since the beginning of the season. His stuff is not good anymore. Argue with me all you want. The location of a slider is not what it used to be. If you go on Baseball Savant and you look at his slider location from last year to this year, completely different. Completely different side of the strike zone. So, Scherzer does not have a slider. And quote me on this, but I believe the 5 home runs were all on a slider. Don't quote me on that, but
you're probably right. I think I was bitching about that at the game. I think I said another fucking slider. I think that's what I said.
Yeah, if it wasn't, he gave up 5 home runs or 4. At least 2 or 3 of them had to be on the slider. Scherzer, honestly, he's weak. He's a bum. I'm done defending him, saying, oh, he could turn it around. He can't pitch in the big game. He cannot pitch in a big game. I guarantee you, this was like Rob and I said on our Sunday stream. If it was a Sunday game and the Mets already lost the series, oh, he'll pitch a gem. But if it comes to game 2 or any big game, he can't pitch in it. And that's what Max Scherzer is. He's a barrel merchant this season. Him and barrels are his best friend, giving up hard contact. So, yeah, Scherzer's been extremely frustrating to watch. People want him traded. What are you going to get out of him? His value is on the floor right now. He has no value. So I really don't know what you're going to do with Max Scherzer. The offense battled. The offense came in and fought, to the last out, but at least they put up a nice 9th inning, just couldn't get the job done. Why did Buck Showalter put Trevor Gott into a 2-run situation? I don't know. That was a really head scratching question. I dare I say this, the 3 guys that you use in those big situations, I hate to say Ottavino, but Ottavino, Raley, and Robertson. Yeah, I'm not really sure what God was in there for, but obviously he did his job, of course, right? And then the bullpen kind of just was clean on the way through. And then you go to game 3, which I actually was on the couch and I fell asleep. So thanks for making me fall asleep, Mets. Carrasco. I don't really understand why the Mets re-signed him this offseason. I don't understand why the Mets and Billy Epler gave him the qualifying offer. The day that happened, I was even thinking to myself, why are we giving this guy a qualifying offer? If we're giving anyone a qualifying offer, I know Bass and Walker probably would have not accepted because they have some talent. But yeah, so that was really that. It goes to show you, if your starters are only going 2-3 innings, you're not winning the ball game. You're not going to win a ball game with Trevor Gott and Dominic Leone coming into the ball game.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Your bullpen carried, and you only gave up 1 run, which wasn't horrible. But your offense was pretty much non-existent. And this team can't hit lefties for their life. I think that's one thing that has not been discussed this season. 2021, this team cannot hit lefties. You can get Patrick Corbin out there, they wouldn't hit him. I don't know what it is. Lindor needs to bat righty. I'm done with Lindor as the lefty. But no one wants to talk about him and how he's in a massive slump. Big surprise. But, this team needs to figure out starting to hit lefties. I know McNeil, he's been a big guy. He's been great at hitting lefties the last couple of years. This year, he just can't hit a lefty for his life. Brandon Nimmo's been well against lefties, Tommy Pham, but everyone else has just been non-existent when it comes to hitting left-handed pitching. So, overall, just 3 takeaways: sloppy, lifeless, inconsistent offense, and inadequate pitching starts. So those are kind of some terms. Guys that I'm disappointed with, Max Scherzer, and I guess I'd go Trevor Gott as well.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, look, I don't want to see him the Trevor Gott move at all. So I try to do a little research and be like, it's got to be analytical. It had to be. I just had to, throw analytics in there, and Trevor Gott was in it because the numbers against these guys were pretty good. I know, I know, but you see that's why I truly believe. Now Buck had a shit year. I truly believe he is being forced or he's agreeing to use a lot more analytics this season because that move made no sense. You can't have a guy who has a 12 ERA going into the ball game in a crucial situation, a 2-run ball game, as you said. It was the numbers.
Was it based off of what he threw?
Just what he's done against certain players in certain situations. And I know I don't get it. And that's the numbers were there. And then I'm looking at, I'm like, but you got to have a gut feel to this. And that's what I hate about baseball nowadays, because there's not enough. Hey, is this guy actually doing well right now? Like, the guy can be 10 for 10 with 5 home runs and 15 RBIs, and you'll sit him because he can't hit a lefty. It makes no sense. Like, play the hot hand. I'm not saying the bullpen was, really good anyway, but wouldn't you rather see anybody else but Gott? I mean, honestly, like, he's been that bad. He can't get a guy out. But yeah, I mean, I don't get it. I really don't get it. So Nelson, we're gonna go to you now, and name a player. If it's already been named, that's all right. Just give your opinion on it. But players that you think in this Red Sox series that just were like just the biggest problem of this series.
I mean, you can name half the team. They're not this series is the epitome of the 2023 Mets. They just don't. Just when you think they start to look a little better, they slide back to the same old Mets. Their pitching is bad. Their bullpen is atrocious. I mean, the offense steps up for a game and then they go quiet. Jeff McNeil absolutely stinks. I don't care what anybody tells me. The dude sucks. Pete looks like he's maybe starting to come around a little bit. Lindor's come out of the break like in a huge slump. He was super hot going in. Bad timing, the All-Star break, I don't know, but he needs to pick it up. He did get a couple. I think he got a hit Sunday off the monster. Should have been a double, but they played it well. It's just a bad looking baseball team, doesn't it?
Yep.
And then Fam's hurt or has been hurt, so he hasn't played. He was one of our best hitters. I don't know. Scherzer, you can't defend Max Scherzer. Scherzer's he's been bad. I don't know what is wrong with his slider, but it's a horrible pitch. He should almost scrap it at this point. Every time he throws it up there, it's a freaking cookie that gets hit out of the park. And Gott, man, the thing about Buck is his bullpen management has been horrible all year. But he has a history of this going back to the Orioles. Like, it's not like it's new that he is bad at managing bullpens. Last year, he got lucky a lot of times. He really did. And he had the best closer in baseball, arguably, back there to save his ass a lot. And he doesn't have that this year. Granted, Robertson's been really good, but everybody else is not. So it's just, I don't know, it's hard to explain what happened to this team. It's like everything that could go wrong has. And it stinks because I know none of us wanted to be in this position, especially coming off of 101 wins. We all wanted to hopefully be in a similar spot, but the writing's on the wall. And I know Hayden says stand pat. I prefer to sell just because I prefer to – you never know when you're going to hit on one of these trades. You sell a guy, maybe one of these random minor leaguers turns into something. You just never know. So I'd rather take my chances with that. Because if you let these guys walk, you're not getting anything back anyway. So might as well trade what you can. I don't think any of the bigger names like Scherzer and Verlander are damn near impossible to trade. But you got to, like Rob said, you just got to listen to any calls. Like, you can't hang up the phone on anybody. Anybody calls you, you listen to what they have to say. If it's good, make the deal. If it sucks, then move on. But I'm not opposed to anything. And I don't know, man, just a rough series. Luckily, I honestly, to be honest, I caught bits and pieces of it. I went and watched the Barbie and Oppenheimer this weekend. So yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Oppenheimer was pretty good. I saw it in
was
Boston
a
while
good
I was
movie.
waiting to check in. Great movie. Yeah.
I have a question for the group. What was the Scherzer post-game quote? Not this start, but the last start when he pitched well. He said he found something in his mechanics that he
Slide.
Yeah.
has been getting
Yeah.
wrong the whole time.
Basically,
What was that exact quote?
yeah,
Because guess what?
basically he said that because it was a little bit muddy on the mound, that it made his left foot, I believe, a little bit more heavier, so he didn't pick up his leg as high as he usually would in the past. So it helped his slider against the Dodgers.
So just dump
So
water
I
on the
guess-
mound, essentially.
Yeah, so basically, I guess his foot was not heavy enough to hang all those sliders in Boston. That was his quote.
Unreal.
And
I
I
just wanted to point
guess
that out.
whatever Cookie saw on YouTube or Instagram that helped him that one start, he forgot it already.
I mean, if it's really true about what they said, why tell the media? Because you're gonna look like an asshole once you get rocked, like each one of them did in the next start. It makes no. Just shut up. How about talking to anybody else in the dugout? Just don't talk to the media because you just look like a complete idiot that don't know what they're talking about, and now you embarrass yourself the next start. So yeah, I mean, I agree with all you guys. I mean, I had to endure this shit in person. Thank God the venue was great, but I mean, really, it was like I just don't know, like it just didn't seem like on when Senga was pitching, even though he gave up a couple of runs early, you could see that his stuff was sharp. They were just getting good at bats off of him. With Scherzer, you can just like from the left field bleachers where we were by the right field bleachers by the pesky pole. You can see there was no movement on that slider. Everything was a cement mixture. It was just spinning right over the plate, and they were crushing it. It just seemed like that all the time. And I think Hayden was right. I think all the home runs he gave up was on a slider. It's just that simple. And it's unfortunate for the Mets because they don't even need to play great. They need to play halfway decent, and they can't even do that right. And so I don't know. So my guy is Scherzer only because of the fact that I thought that he's a gamer and he'll figure it out because he's a pitcher. He pitches. He ain't guys like Syndergaard who's a thrower, and then as soon as he doesn't have his 99 miles an hour fastball, he doesn't know how to pitch. You know, I know Scherzer is a guy that can figure things out, but he can't. He can't, I mean, at this point, I have more faith in Verlander, and it's very minimal over Scherzer, and it sucks. But you know who I think the star of the weekend is, and mostly Sunday? Mark Canha. How many runs did he save in that game? Holy Christ. That was a great game by him defensively. Like, I mean, backing up third base, which nobody does anymore, backing up any play, it's amazing what he did. And you know what? He'll be off this team probably in a few days anyway because there is teams like the Dodgers who are very interested in him. So we're going to get to the Subway Series. It's probably honestly, both teams need to win, right? Both of them probably need a sweep of the series. Both of them are out of the playoffs at this point. Yankees are a little bit closer than the Mets. Yankees have harder teams to pass. Mets have, basically the entire National League to pass before they can get somewhere. So Subway Series, Hayden, I'm going to start with Hayden, I'm going to start with you.
Sure.
Is there anything you want to see with this series? Like, I mean, I'm not going to the stadium. I was, but I got some news later on in the show at the end. I'll tell you guys about, which is pretty cool. But yeah, go ahead, Hayden. Subway Series. Woohoo!
I guess just show life. Look like a Major League Baseball team. Try to look like a $400 million payroll. I mean, I know money's irrelevant, but still. I mean, yeah, both of these teams are in a really bad spot. I know the Yankees just swept the Royals, so I mean, listen, the only bad team the Mets have really swept this year is the Athletics, but put the Mets against the Nationals or the Rockies, that's just that's that ball game. But yeah, I mean, both of these teams are really underperforming. I mean, yeah, the Yankees are a couple games over 500, but I mean, if you've seen that division, it's really the equivalent that the Yankees have the same record as the Mets because, I mean, you have the Rays and Orioles that are, pretty much a juggernaut for first place, 20 games above just about. So, yeah, Yankees, I mean, really are not having it. I mean, not to make this a Yankees recap, but, I mean, Carlos Rodon hasn't looked great since his return. He's pitched 3 games and let's just say the fans are already booing him. Yeah, I mean, that lineup. I mean, you look at that Yankees lineup, heavily relying too much on
Hayden, I think you crapped out. Did Hayden freeze or was it just me?
Yeah, he froze.
No, he's
Where'd he
frozen.
go?
Sorry,
Oh,
can you hear
no.
me now?
Damn. It's like the Mets offense.
We can't
There he
see.
goes.
Sorry.
Hey.
Oh, no.
Sorry.
Hey.
I don't know what the last thing you
Forgot
heard me
get to
say
you?
was. What was the last thing you heard me say?
Just start wherever you wanted to start. It's fine.
All right. So yeah, just quickly, the Yankees. Yeah, they've been really bad. I know they're a couple games over 500, but their record is pretty much the equivalent to the Mets. Yankees starting rotation's been horrible. Rodon's been getting lit up since his return back. And I mean, Garrett Cole's been having his best year, which really sucks that it's in a year when they're probably not going to go very far. Lineup is horrible. Too many guys that should still be in AAA. Absence of Judge has been really killing them. Going to the Mets, you have Verlander versus Herman game 1. That should be an interesting matchup. Herman, besides the perfect game this year, really doesn't have much to brag about. Verlander, we'll see. I mean, I don't really know what to expect with him. I could see him going out there and, being the pitcher he was paid to be and being the pitcher he should be. But you never know with him at this rate. Game 2, Quintana versus Rodon. Quintana, it's going to be interesting to see Quintana, his second game back. We know that his first game back, he looked pretty decent. I mean, besides that first inning, his stuff looked good. He mixed up his pitch as well. Quintana is going to be this bat-to-ball guy, contact, and let the defense do the talking. He's not a heavy strikeout guy. So if, just get the ground balls that you need, keep the ball on the ground. It's Yankee Stadium. Keep the ball in the ballpark. Most importantly, especially when you're facing those lefties. I know Rizzo hasn't been hitting many home runs, but the rest of the lefties in that lineup, of course. When it comes to everything else, I really don't know what to say. I don't have much expectations. When it comes to the lineup, we saw Alonso look somewhat alive in Boston. I believe he had probably 5 or 6 hits. I want to say he had 2 doubles, a triple, and 2 singles. So yeah, he still struck out on a couple pitches. He's still hurt, most likely. But he's starting to look like he's coming out of it a little bit. And this is the timetable from a wrist fracture to kind of start to heal. So you're going to need, if the Mets want to at least play at 500, you're going to need Alonso's bat in this lineup, no doubt. Likewise with Lindor. But Alonso looked a little bit better. That's really all I could say with the lineup. The Pham injury kind of blows. I don't know what the issue is with Pham, but his absence will probably be missed. I really don't know what to expect, but if you ask me before the season, I just say for any ball game, score 5 runs and you should win. But I don't know if that's going to be the Mets' case. I really hate to come on and sound like this, but I think they're going to go 0-2. I think this is going to be the start when I think Herman's just going to come out of nowhere, pitch a really close 1-1 ball game, and Yankees just come in the 9th or the 8th and win. And I could just see this being the start where Rodon just goes nuts. He's a lefty, and the Mets love to hit left-handed pitching. So I don't have much expectations. I think they're going to get swept in the 2-game set. I hope not. I'd like to see them go 2-0, but you could pay me, and I still don't think I could even think that.
Yeah. It would be nice if the Mets just put the Yankees out of their misery and sweep them, and just it's not even about the Mets positivity. It's just like, hey, Yankees, get away from the playoffs, and it'll make me feel a little bit better about myself being a Mets fan. But Nelson, so your thoughts about the Subway Series? What do you want to see? Does it matter? Both teams clearly need wins to at least stay where they are, or at least get closer to a wild card spot. So Nelson, give me your thoughts for the Subway Series, and are you? You're probably gonna watch because you're a Mets fan, but what do you think about the series?
No, yeah, I'll definitely watch, but I don't have high expectations. I expect them to split it. I'm not as down as Hayden. I don't think we're gonna get swept. I think we'll find a way to win one of them at least. but it doesn't change anything. I don't think that means we win a game at Yankee Stadium and this team's back on the right track. It's the same old Mets. So I don't know. I would like to see Verlander pitch a good game at least. If I'd like to have some confidence with if we're keeping him, which more than likely we are, it's going to be hard to trade him. If we're keeping Verlander, I'd like to have some confidence going into next year and see him put a string of good starts together. So to see him do it in Yankee Stadium would be nice. But other than that, I just want to see at least Alonso keep it up. See Lindor get back on track. I've lost all faith in McNeil, so I don't expect anything there. Would be nice to see Alvarez hit some out of that little league park. Maybe get Beatty a few hits. Hopefully get Vientos going, man. To give him a shot at least. Like Buck in his freaking lineups, and that doesn't make sense either. So yeah, that's what I'm hoping to see. The wins and losses to me don't necessarily matter at this point. I just want to see some individuals start to step up.
Yeah, I agree. In these type of series, or it's just these, last couple of games before the deadline, you definitely want to see guys pick it up. Like, I want to see Alonso put better bats on the ball, like he was in the Boston series. Like, he was starting to hit the ball up the middle a little bit. He's, a lot more balance at the plate, which is nice to see, even though we had more strikeouts. But I like to see that. Same with other guys too. Vientos showed some life in the Boston series. He had good at bats. The Mets still have a problem with runners in scoring position, bases loaded, nobody out in the suspended game on Saturday. First and second, nobody out in the same game, and didn't get no runs. I mean, it's a constant, FU to Mets fans every single time. But yeah, it's kind of like, with this series, I see it as this. If you don't believe in the Mets anymore, mathematically, and you just think they're done for the playoffs, then that's fine. But, I mean, it'll make you feel good that you just, beat up the Yankees a little bit and, hurt their chances a little bit more going into the deadline. That's the only thing you can hope for at this point, even though, I mean, if the Yankees make the playoffs, I mean, we always hate that. But, most of us lived our entire lives in seeing the Mets, the Yankees in the playoffs every single year. So it's nothing new. But it would be nice just to beat them up. So we'll see if that's the case. But, yeah, I want to see good at-bats from a lot of these guys. I want to see the young kids play. Why not at this point? And that's going to lead right into why no Mauricio. Mendick is up in a replace for Luis Guillorme. I saw him. I don't know what the hell he was trying to do on that ground ball. I know it was hit hard, but he was bouncing around like a freaking bunny rabbit trying to catch that ground ball. I know it was hit really hard at him, but I don't know what he was trying to do, and he hurt himself doing it. But, Guillorme is not going to make or break this team anyway, so why no Mauricio? I know there was a comment, I think it was yesterday with Epler, in regards that they want him to play a little bit more second base and left field, where it's probably going to be his two primary positions, or at least one of them will be his primary position at some point. And he has a ton of errors at second base, and it's basically almost an error a game if you look at the ratio. And in left field, he has 3 errors, and people are like, oh, that's not a lot. Well, he's played like 9 games in left field. So 3 errors in 9 games is not what you want to see. So in both of those spots where he's least comfortable, probably, that's probably where the Mets are going to play him, because where are you going to play him? You're not going to play him at short, and you're not going to play him at third. Even though I've said this for a while, I'd rather put Beatty to left field. He's had a lot more games in left field than Mauricio, and Beatty looks like a competent left fielder. I think he can make the easy plays, and, I think he could be Mark Canha in a way, get into every ball and occasionally making a nice catch here and there, and Beatty's got a better arm. So, and he's shown it in the highlights that we've seen on Twitter, him gunning out people at home. So put him in left field and put Mauricio where he's most comfortable, and he played a lot in the Dominican Winter League at third base. That's what they should do. So, guys, I'm going to go around really quick just to give you thoughts. Why no Mauricio? Nelson, I'm going to start with you.
Well, the company line is they want to give him more time at second and left. I don't know, man. I guess it makes some sense to wait till you see what happens after the deadline and then do what you will with him. I've been wanting to see him up. I don't see what it would hurt. Um, Heck, you could have DH'd him for the longest time, but our DH spot has been a freaking black hole. So if you're worried about the defense, I mean, then you got the argument, well, you stunt his growth by not playing. I don't know. I think you just need to get your best bats in the lineup, and he looks like he can be a pretty impactful bat. But the Mets have their views. Who knows? I mean, Chris has said, and I have even said that it seems almost like he's a guy that they might look to trade, maybe not necessarily this deadline, but in the offseason. And maybe they just don't want to put him out there to, if he looks bad, then his trade value could drop. Maybe that's it. It's hard to know. It's hard to know without being like in the room talking to these guys. It's just Epler just, I don't want to call him incompetent, but at times he does seem that way. It's I don't know, man. It's really, I can't figure it out. I can't figure out what they do things that contradict themselves like over and over again, like especially the way they handle Vientos, the way we're playing Beatty and platooning him. Looks like they've gotten away from that a little bit. But I don't know. They don't seem to have a consistent approach to how to handle these kids. And that worries me because I don't want to see these kids all end up being crap, and not necessarily based on their talent, but based on the fact that we don't know how to utilize them. So, yeah, that's what I got.
Chris, what do you got? Why no Mauricio?
No, I mean, like Nelson just said, I've been echoing this for a while now. I mean, if it gets to the point where we don't see Mauricio, because I mean, listen, the Mets are 7 games out of the wild card, right? I mean, at this point, if they stay pat, I think that's also just non-productive, to be honest with you. Although I can see them doing that just because this front office doesn't seem like they know what direction they want to go in. But if it gets to the point where the Mets don't really, or they know that they're not going to make a run at it, and we don't see Mauricio, that should be everybody's either green or red flag, however you want to look at it, to know that he is going to be the first one traded and some sort of package this offseason. Because at this point, I don't think the Mets front office is dumb enough to think that they are World Series contenders this year. I think that they've already probably started making internal plans to look forward to 2024 and be competitive in 2024. Maybe they believe in, Jet Williams or Colin Houck being, maybe the future of, maybe a up the middle tandem with Lindor when McNeil phases out or whatever you do with McNeil. I don't know if those guys can even play second base or not, but I'm sure that they're probably going to test that out at some point in the minor leagues. Or if they play third base and Beatty goes to left field, like you said, Rob, whatever the case may be, if they truly don't think Mauricio has a position long term with the Mets and they don't want to clog up the DH with an uncertain AAA prospect, which I think would be kind of silly. I kind of like Mauricio's upside, his power bat, his switch hitting bat. I think that he could be a good DH long term option. But do you want to put your eggs in that basket, or do you want to go out and get maybe a starting pitcher in a trade this offseason that could boost the rotation? Because obviously we can't rely on Scherzer to be an ace anymore. If we don't trade Scherzer, which I really don't think there's going to be a market out there for Scherzer given the opt-in money that he's going to be getting. So you slot Scherzer in at like the 3-4, because let's face it, Senga has probably been our number 1 so far this year, and Justin Verlander probably the 2. Scherzer, we're looking at him being a 3-4 next year, and I'd prefer it to be a 4, to be honest with you. So if we can get, I know Dylan Cease's name popped up over here in the comments section. It's not going to happen at this trade deadline, but I would fully expect Mauricio, if he doesn't come up this season in 2023, that he's going to be shipped in the offseason for starting pitcher primarily. And who knows what happens with Quintana. Quintana could be a trade candidate this trade deadline, or they can decide to keep him and become the Cookie Carrasco of next season, the 5 starter. and he's a lot better than Cookie Carrasco. So I'm thinking forward to 2024. I'm sure the front office is as well. Maybe they haven't put all their eggs in that basket to 24 just yet. But they'd be very naive and they'd be very, let's face it, just dumb not to start thinking about that. So, and how they handled Vientos isn't the same way they're handling Mauricio. So that should tell you something as well.
Yep.
I would have thought Vientos was the guy to sort of stay put down in AAA and try to get some value out of him. Obviously, he was mashing home runs there before he got called up, but we'll see. I like Mauricio. I'd be fine with keeping him, but I'd like to see him this season, right? It's about youth going forward. Get the guy some playing time, and if you make that decision to bring him up, you pretty much can already tell, unless he starts killing at the major league level, you can already pretty much tell that the Mets are going to think about him in the long term in the Mets uniform. But if he's staying down there in AAA, please expect him to be traded in the offseason. And I won't fault the front office either way. To be honest, it's a tricky situation. Unfortunate for Mauricio as well, because he's been killing it. He should be up on this squad right now, to be honest with you. I would love to see that happen. I've been advocating for it, but it really is, like Nelson said, to Nelson's point, it's really hard to sort of delve into what they're thinking long term, because they got to make some crucial decisions and play this trade deadline smartly enough, in order to put themselves in the best position to win in 2024, which Steve Cohen is in my opinion, the right man to put a winning roster out there in 2024 after a debacle of a season like 2023 happened. And things might get easier with David Stearns or any other president of baseball operations that steps in the door. More structure is going to happen. Billy Epler, if he's still around, he will provide whatever he provides, but it's going to be under the supervision of whoever is acting as president of baseball operations. He's not going to have that leeway to make a Darren Ruff-like trade in future seasons, especially next season. So we'll see what happens. I really feel bad for Ronnie Mauricio. He should be up, and it's unfortunate for him. And you don't want to have the same thing happen with Ronnie Mauricio what happened to Mark Vientos, because that would be very, very bad news. You got a lot more upside in terms of trade value with Mauricio at this point. Maybe that's what they're doing. All options are on the table at this point. It's a down year, and the most important thing is to not get desperate. That's the most important thing. So us as fans and both us as fans and the front office do not get desperate. So I want to see how this season plays out, but that's what I'm thinking with Ron Mauricio. If we can get a pitcher in with a little bit of years of control, maybe not a situation where you have to pay him, within that season because he's a free agent. Maybe 2-3 years of control left. A guy, hopefully on the younger side. I'm kind of done signing veteran pitchers at this point. I hope the Mets front office makes a push towards more youth. I think that's going to be very serviceable going in the future. So, regardless of whether Ronnie Mauricio is part of the Mets' future plans or not, I hope he has a successful career, whether it's with the Mets or not. So we'll see what happens, and that's a situation to definitely monitor. So,
yeah, Hayden. So, Mauricio, why isn't he up? Do you think there's a reason for it?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with what Nelson and Chris had to share on Mauricio. When it comes to Ronnie Mauricio, I mean, I think there's a lot of things you could take out of the basket. I think you look at it, number one. I honestly, I really don't know. Yeah, I mean, obviously Mauricio's only been in AAA for a limited amount of time. Obviously, the jump from AA to AAA and then AAA to the major league, I mean, the pitching is much more complex. It's much huger. But obviously, I don't think that's the reason that the Mets are holding him back. I really don't know what the reason is. I don't know if they're trying to not devalue him for trade. That could be a potential reason. But right now, before the deadline, I really don't think there's a point in calling up Mauricio. And let me say this: what's the point? If Mark Vientos is sitting on the bench 1 out of 6 days a week, or 6 out of 7 days a week, what, you think Mauricio is going to get playing time every single day? I mean, yeah, take it with a grain of salt. Vientos isn't playing a specific position. Where would Mauricio play? I don't know if that's another reason that Mets want to keep him down in the minor leagues to get more reps at second base. We know the Mets infield is more than filled in the farm system. We know the Mets love drafting infielders and catchers. It's their fantasy. They love shortstops and catchers. So, obviously, I think him developing as an outfielder is probably out the window for now, at least. That could still be a possibility. One thing, not to get off topic, but I know a lot of people were concerned with Beatty playing left field, saying, oh, that'd be another Dom Smith. Well, Dom Smith was not athletic. No offense to Dom Smith, but he was not a very athletic ball player. He didn't have an arm. He was a first baseman at best defensively. So yeah, I think there's much difference between Beatty and him. Beatty's athletic. Beatty has an arm. Beatty's just faster, all around more athletic. So that's that. But yeah, Mauricio, I really don't know. Like I said, it could be not to devalue him. It could be just to give him the reps at second base. We know that he struggled a little bit at second base. It's a new position. We know the Mets drafted him as a shortstop. He got very big, gained a lot of muscle, gained a lot of weight, got a little bit taller. And obviously, the Mets have a shortstop for the next 9 years. So obviously, I think he's a little too big to be. I think he's too big to be a second baseman. I mean, do you see any 6'5", 230-pound second basemen out there? I've said outfield. I've said it since day one, and I'm going to echo it. I think Mauricio, quote me on it. I could be wrong all I want, but I think Mauricio could serve best as an outfielder. It doesn't hurt to try. He's young, but you only have so many more opportunities ahead. But he's looking good. I mean, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, he's a Soriano 2.0, but he has great power. I think he could be a 25, 30 home run machine. Strikeouts is something you'd like to work on, but I mean, he's playing up to par. I mean, I want to say his OBP in AAA was like 340, 350. So for a power guy, that's pretty good. That's adequate enough. I'll accept that. But yeah, his bats looked good. He's barrels, hard contact, doubles, home runs. He's been looking great. No major complaints. But back to the question, why aren't they calling him up? I think probably three things: trade value, and if it's not trade value, just get him acclimated at playing a certain position. They still want him to get the reps offensively from the AAA pitching. Or last, they just know he's not going to be played. And I know Vientos is a different case because he doesn't play a position, but think about it. You call him Mauricio right now, where would you put him? DH? So then what? We know Buck has this huge fascination with Vogelbach and his veterans over Vientos and potentially Mauricio. Now, if it comes post-trade deadline and Pham's off the team and Canna's off the team, then yes, I think it would be appropriate to slot in Mauricio. And if they don't, then I would start going off on this team quite a lot. The farm system is something to talk about heavily a lot. Regardless of Mauricio, the Mets have a lot of infield prospects. I mean, Jet Williams is a name that I've been very fascinated with. I live in Florida, so I've gone to the Florida Complex League. I've been to Port St. Lucie. I've seen him play. I think he could be a huge guy down the line. Potentially a second baseman could be nice. I know he's a smaller guy. But you don't have the pitching prospects. We talk about next year. I mean, you have Mike Vassell, arguably could start in AAA. You have Blake Tidwell. He's not making the roster. I hate to burst everyone's bubbles, but he's in what is he in High A Brooklyn now? Yeah, he's making the roster. I hate to burst everyone's bubbles there, but otherwise, Calvin Ziegler's out. Matt Allen's been, I think, absent on the moon the last year. I mean, you have Kodai Senga and another year of Wash Scherzer and 50-50 JV. So, unless. Who was the April Fool's pitcher? Sid Finch or whatever his name was. Unless he comes into being a real person and could pitch, I think you have a lot of concerns next year pitching wise. But that's a topic for another day. But sorry to get off topic. But Mauricio, I say you let the next week ride out. Come in post trade deadline. If Canna and Pham and other offensive pieces are gone, you're calling up Mauricio. And if you don't, then something's wrong.
Yeah, I agree. And Hayden, you know this from as long as 2 years now we know each other. What I've been saying the whole time about Ronnie Mauricio, this guy is trade bait. I've said it over and over.
We both have said it.
We both agree. We talked about this over and over again. He's trade bait. If you don't believe that, just look what they're doing. And the stupid thing that the Mets are doing now are changing positions that he's not comfortable in. that devalues the player. Everybody, no matter who they are in Major League Baseball, if they want Ronnie Mauricio, they're putting him in a shortstop. That's his best position. Moving him to second and left field and third base is slowly devaluing him. Why? Because if there's a team out there that really needs a second baseman, and they're like, you know what, we think he can play for us, if not this year, next year at second base, you're really going to put a guy out there that has more errors than any other position he's played at, doesn't look comfortable at all, has many struggles turning double plays because of how big he is. And I think Hayden's right. I think he should be a left fielder. But I don't remember how many games he played. I missed that part. But it's not a lot of games, and he has 3 errors. I don't know if they're throwing errors or not. But if they're fielding errors where he can't, catch a fly ball, what are we doing? Do we need another Lucas Duda or another Dominic Smith in left field? We can't keep on, putting these guys out there that can't play the position. And I said this from the beginning with Mauricio. He's trade bait. He's probably going to be very good. All signs indicate, he was the MVP of the Dominican Winter League. I know that's a really good league, but it's still not Major League Baseball. It's not all Major League pitching. There's a lot of minor leaguers that go to the Dominican Winter League. So, and we all know about AAA pitching, all right? I don't see Brett Beatty or Alvarez or Vientos batting 350 in Major League Baseball. So anybody who keeps on bringing up the nonsense stats that we see in AAA, please, there's a lot of journeymen and guys that are never going to make the major leagues in AAA. Now, the numbers in AA is where I really look, because that's where the biggest prospects are, and basically the best players in the top 100 are. AA numbers are more important than AAA numbers, all right? There's a lot of, has-beens in AAA that are just hanging on for dear life to try to get a shot with the big club. Don't look at those numbers. It's not worth it. The errors are an individual error, as an error. That has nothing to do with anybody else. So, look, I think Mauricio is going to be good, but as soon as they signed Francisco Lindor to a massive deal, I said it right away. If they don't move him, and it took him a long time to move him from shortstop. I had Joe DeMayo of SNY on my channel early last year, to talk about Ronnie Mauricio. And he says that they are afraid to remove Ronnie Mauricio because he's very young and he's still trying to develop at shortstop. Yet, not even a year later, they're moving him around the ballpark. They're moving him around the infield and the outfield. And that's what they think of him. They think he's going to be good, but they are trying everything to bring him up at this point at positions that he is not very good in. And if you don't realize that, look at the stats. Look at the metrics, the defensive metrics in general. I can care less about his bat. The numbers at AAA mean absolutely nothing for me, because there's a guy in AAA right now that can be batting 200 and can bat 280 in the Major League Baseball. I truly believe that those numbers mean nothing to me. If you can't play the field, what are you? You're Mark Vientos. And if you don't hit, you're not playing. And a positionless player is the worst thing you have as the top prospect, because most teams aren't going to care. Remember last year, guys, Mark Vientos, the only guy that was on the trade block that Epler was willing to trade, nobody took a bite at that opportunity. You know why? Because nobody believed Vientos is probably even a top 20 prospect. Because if you throw him in any other real farm system, he'll be lucky to break the top 20. And again, with Ronnie Mauricio, I think could be a potential to be very, very good, if not. And somebody said Ellie De La Cruz. Be careful with that, all right? Because he's had insane numbers, way better than Ronnie Mauricio. And you know what they actually did? They actually kept him out of position. That's amazing, right? And he could play multiple positions very well. So, again, 8 days until the deadline, guys. There was a Sports Illustrated. We'll try to wrap it up a little quickly. I know a lot of people are just hanging on for dear life here. But there was a Sports Illustrated article. I forgot who wrote it, but other reporters actually confirmed it as well, that the Giants are very interested in Justin Verlander, and they'll be willing, if the Mets pick up a ton of the contract, if not all, they are willing to give multiple top prospects in their top 20 to the Mets. And that was confirmed by multiple people. Is it true or not? Who the hell knows? But I'm telling you right now, if they're willing to give me 2 top 20 prospects, I might have to think about that with Verlander. Why the hell not? I mean, he's not helping his team going anywhere at the moment. And who knows about next year? You know, another year older doesn't mean he's going to be any better. I mean, maybe he will, maybe he won't. But, you know, chances are he probably won't be very good. So, quick thoughts, Nelson, about that report about Verlander to the Giants. Do you see any like ground on that? Do you see anything moving around with that?
Nah, I think we're at a time where reporters are just looking to make stories out of anything. And listen, that contract, it's not only with Max, it's one thing because you only have to pay next year.
Yeah.
With Verlander, it's 2 years he's got left on that deal. And I think there's some clause where the Mets can't necessarily pay the money for that second year anyway.
Correct.
So I don't see the Giants wanting to, even if we do pay all of next year's money, take on that last year of his contract. It just seems very far-fetched to me. That Max, I could maybe see more likely to get dealt, but even I don't think it is going anywhere. I just think reporters are looking for stories at this point. I mean, there's so many things contradicting each other. Like one report says the Mets are in sell mode. Martino just wrote a report that they haven't decided yet, and they're not ready to sell yet. So who knows? Nobody knows really what's going on here. We'll figure it out in the next few days, I guess. But yeah, I don't think anything's going to happen with Verlander.
Yeah, I agree. Like if that's true, the Mets have to think about it for sure. Because somebody, I think Paul just said, the Giants do have a good farm system, so you never know what you can get for them, and they might be desperate at that point. You know, they think they have a chance. I mean, they think they're a pitcher away. They might be a little bit desperate to get him. You just never know. But yeah, I think it's all clickbait with these reporters. I think they have no idea, especially with the Mets, because one thing about Cohen and the organization, if you notice, ever since he took over, it's been tightly shut when it comes to rumors and everything. Like nothing has leaked out much at all. And Cohen's done a good job organizationally about not getting any leaks out there. So I think they're really grasping at straws at this point just for stories because, I mean, let's be honest, the Mets are one of the main topics along with the Padres and the Yankees for being disasters this year. And, you know, I think, you know, how do you get clickbait as a reporter with nothing going on? Talk about one of those three teams about trading big-time players. You see with the Padres with Soto and Hayden, right? It's big news. And then, you know, the Padres came out and said they're not trading them. And then all the reporters said they are. So who the hell knows? So, Chris, would you think about making that trade if that's a possibility, if the Giants are willing to give 2 top 20 prospects, if they're willing to pay the money? I know the contract's a little scary, but I mean, they were willing to spend the money, and maybe they think Verlander still got something where they wouldn't mind spending next year, but would want the Mets to pay the money, the rest of the salary this year to get a couple of prospects back. Good ones.
Yeah, of course, you have to think about it. It gets tricky in terms of when you think about next season. Verlander's a guy who could help the team next season. I think he's. I've liked what I've seen the last outing. He had a good outing. I'm pretty positive. Last time I saw it, but I don't. I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's really tough. Because I said, if you think about 2024 and remaining competitive, in my opinion, I don't know if you guys feel the same way. I think that he could serve in the rotation next year, right? If Steve Cohen commits to going out and getting this team and filling the holes of this team, I think Verlander's a guy you got to think about retaining. It depends on who the prospects are. We can sit here and say top 20 all we want. Who are we putting down on the table here? You got to think about it, though, at least. You got to take the call. And like Nelson said, if that clause is true for that second year, where the Mets have to pay the contract, it's not happening. It's not happening. And that's why I just don't think that Verlander and Scherzer are movable. So to answer your question in a very indirect manner, I don't know. I don't know if I would entertain it personally, because I'm thinking at 2024, I want to see the Mets on paper be World Series contenders in 2024. There's only so many routes and so many holes you can fill in a rotation. Yeah, we got Ohtani coming up as a free agent. He'd probably serve as one if that happens. Is that likely? Who knows at this point? We just talked about Mauricio maybe filling in another rotation need in a potential trade this offseason if he doesn't come up from AAA. The short answer is I don't know. I would be listening and willing to talk. I don't know if 2 top 20s. I don't know. It depends on what Cohen really is going to do this offseason. If he thinks Shohei Ohtani is a viable option, if he thinks the other Japanese guy in the Japanese league right now that Billy Epler went to go scout is a viable option. If you're talking about trading Scherzer and Verlander, you need to fill those holes somehow, right?
Yep.
And you need to fill them with not mediocrity. You're going to need top guys, right? So you're going to need to get rid of Mauricio. You're going to need to sign a top guy, whether it's Shohei or the Japanese guy. So we can talk about prospects stacking all day long with Verlander or whatnot in this improbable trade that might happen with the Giants that's been reported, whatever. But if you think about that, you get the prospects, great. But 2024, how are you filling in that slot? If it's not Shohei, right? Because I like to think about 2024. I'm not thinking about Shohei. I want Shohei. I'd be very open to signing him. But right now, he's not a lock by any stretch of the imagination. So I like to take him off the table when I think about 2023 offseason, 2024, whatever the season is.
Yeah.
When you're talking about when these players are going to be filled. So you got to answer both sides of the story when you're talking about potential Verlander trade. Who's going to replace him? Who's a viable option to replace him in the offseason? But the prospects sure are nice, but is it likely, like Nelson said? No, I don't think so. I don't think it's going to happen. Him or Scherzer. I think we see both those guys in the roster. So I'll pass it off to Hayden.
Yeah. Hayden, before we get to you about that, I you're right about that. Like I said, like how many number 3 and number 4s do you want on this team? Like you can get all the prospects you want. What does that mean? Because it's not helping you for 2024 most likely, and you still got to either make a trade or spend money to bring guys in. And Hector just brought up Urias and Snell. Snell, for the past 5 years, has been injury prone and not good. The Padres were willing to put him on the block last year at the deadline because he wasn't doing so well, and they didn't want him. Now he's pitching well in a contract year. Now all of a sudden everybody wants him. Are you willing to give 4 years, $25+ million to Blake Snell, who is often injured? And in the last 5 years, this year, all of a sudden in his contract year is finally good. And Urias, everybody just looks at him against the Mets and he pitched well. Well, he has over a 4 ERA with the Dodgers, where the Dodgers really need him because of all the injuries they had. So again, getting Snell, getting Urias, I don't think any of them are good enough to be a number 2. So what is the point of signing those guys when you got to give $20+ million to for multiple years, probably 3, 4, 5 years? That's what you're going to go with next year? Doesn't make much sense. You might as well keep Verlander because it looks like he's still got stuff in the, something in the tank in that situation. And we'll see. With that said, yeah, well, Hector, then you're not getting those guys then, honestly. If you're not offering $20 million, they're going to go to another higher bidder, which they will get. And, you're going to fall into the situation where Lucas Giolito, Snell, Urias, and any other Joe Schmo that aren't very good and are having decent years, and Snell's having a really good year in a contract year. These guys are 3. Snell could be a 2, but I don't trust that. So he's probably going to be a 3 or a 4. So how many 3 or 4s are you going to throw out in this rotation? So let's Senga go out there every 5th day and pray for the rest of the rotation. Can't work like that, especially if you're going to be retooling and not rebuilding. If you're going to rebuild, who the hell cares at this point? Just do what you got to do. So Hayden, what do you think about Verlander to the Giants? Would you trade him if you get, if the report's correct, 2 top 20 prospects, whoever they might be? I mean, if they give you a choice of between 5 and 20, 2 guys, what do you think when it comes to the Verlander to Giants?
Yeah, I mean, being completely honest, I don't know who said it, but I'm going to agree with what they said. I think it's just reporters kind of just throwing out stuff. Giants are kind of I don't want to say like an oddball team, but I don't know. If there's any team that's going to be competitive and go after, an ace like a Verlander or, someone like that, I don't really projected to be the Giants. Yeah, I know they're kind of in contention right now. They've been a very underrated team this season. I know they've definitely been battling. I mean, you look at that division, 54-47, only 4.5 games back. And I mean, the D-backs are definitely on the fall. So potentially a wild card. We know the NL is going to be stacked with the 3 wild card teams. So maybe they want to make a push for it. But I really don't know what to make of it. I know, like Rob said, the Giants do have a farm team. I know, as you guys know, I'm very into the farm system and, prospects. I mean, listen, I'm not going to go out here and say, oh, you're going to get their number one prospect in the left-handed pitcher in AAA and Kyle Harrison or Marco Luciano, even though he's a shortstop, so there's really no need for him. I mean, it's not like you're getting anything elite. Like Rob said, it's probably going to be a 5 and 9 top prospect, something just throwing out number. But yeah, and then I mean, that would be that. Verlander would go to the Giants allegedly, and then you get probably 2-3 prospects in return, maybe 2 prospects in return, and a guy that has a rental whose contract's going to expire that's already on the Giants roster. Hey, maybe get JD Davis back. But hey, I really don't know what the plan is, and I mean, also, like Chris said, you get rid of Verlander. Well, what are you doing next year? Because I mean, every Met fan is focusing about next year. I mean, I can assure you that no one's focusing on this year. I'm already on 2024.
Yeah,
said it yesterday. You have Senga. Who else?
Peterson, Miguel.
Wow, Steve Cohen's rotation, right? I mean, that's. I mean, you have what? Senga. And I think Chris Senga is definitely a great pitcher. I think he's capable of being a Cy Young All-Star. Okay, so that's one guy. And we know Senga. Is he still going to need this extra day of rest? I think by next year, I think that'll be out of the equation. I think he'll be ready to pitch every 5th day. But, okay, so you have Senga. That's one. Washed up Scherzer. Maybe that's 2. Okay. Carrasco's gone. Sent him to the moon. And there's no way the Mets are bringing him back. I mean, you could have the worst GM out there. They wouldn't bring him back. Well, I mean, I don't know what the future holds with McGill and Peterson. Peterson, as much as a fool he's made me look on the channel, he has good stuff. It's just he uses it. He doesn't use it at the right time. So there's potential for David Peterson. Crazy enough to say. McGill, I have no idea. He's getting rocked in AAA. Otherwise, I mean, you know what? Like we said, Blake Tidwell, he's going to be in AA. People need to relax. So Tidwell's not going to be called up till earliest late 2024, 2025. Mike Vassell, I think he could make a case to start the year off on the rotation. I think it'll be like Alvarez and Beatty this spring training really make the roster. I think that's going to be the thing for Mike Vassell. However, I don't want to give a rookie a full-on rotation spot confidence. I'm much more of giving the Burns and Woodruff approach of dialing them into a bullpen role and then releasing them, kind of that philosophy that the Milwaukee Brewers have always had. And you look at I was actually looking at in 2025, but you look at the 2024, 2023, 2024 free agent. I mean, does guys like Johnny Cueto and Jack Flattery, I mean, do those sound like appetizing rotation names to you? I mean, a guy like, dare I say Marcus Stroman, you have a couple 4 or 5 starters, sure. But then it's going to be pretty much a mid-rotation. It's not going to be Steve Cohen's rotation. It's going to be a lull rotation of guys that won't get you far into the into the season. So, everyone's. I mean, maybe it's just me, but I'm very worried about next year. And I know I hate to come on here and sound all negative, but I am. I mean, what rotation do you have? And that's the issue. That's why I cannot express enough. Last year, the Mets loved drafting shortstops and catchers. And that's why I hate Billy Epler, but I want to say the 18 of the 24 draftees were pitchers.
Yeah.
Something like that. Huge. Obviously, that's not going to benefit them next year and 4 or 5 years from now, sure. But unfortunately, we don't have a time machine. So I really don't know what it's going to come with the pitching. But that's kind of a big reason why I'd be a little hesitant on trading JV. I know I kind of got sidetracked, but that was kind of my reasoning. I'd be a little bit hesitant on trading JV because at this rate for the Mets, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but this rate, it's really just quantity over quality at this rate. I mean, you just need guys to go out there every fifth day because, I mean, Carrasco, I mean, I'd be surprised how many more starts he has. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a guy like Luke Casey get a start or two. Jose Budo, I'm not sure if he's still relevant or how he's doing in AAA, but yeah, I think that's a big reason why the Mets are going to be hesitant on if they should get rid of JV, because I think the Mets, I think Cohen, and I think Epler, and I think this front office knows that there's not a lot of great starting pitching in the free agency. So, I mean, if you trade someone, whether it's Scherzer, whether it's Verlander, whether it's like a David Robertson, I know the bullpen, that's a different role, and you'll be getting Diaz back, but still, yeah, I mean, Seth Lugo's a very huge name now. I mean, I know Lugo was a guy just couldn't perform in his situation, and that's what the Mets.
He wasn't going to start anyway for the.
And that's the thing. The Mets didn't want him as a starter. They thought he would suit best as a reliever, but yeah, I would say no to trading away Verlander. And I know I hate to focus on next year. It's focused on now, but I mean, what Met fan is focusing on this year? So I would say no, just because simply enough, what are you going to have next year?
Yeah, I mean, look at it this way. Say if the offense bounces back next year, McNeil looks better. He looks like the 300 hitter. Alonso actually bats 250. Lindor gets his average up and actually hits his run as a scoring position. And who knows if Marte is going to be better. But say if this offense is better, could the Mets go the route of saying, listen, clearly the starting pitching isn't really making or breaking. Like, I think it's all about the bullpen. I think you put as much money or trade scenarios to get a really, really good bullpen, because nowadays, I don't even know why you pay starting pitchers anymore. What's the point? Half of them go no more than 6 innings. You use your bullpen more per game, basically, than you do a starter nowadays. Yet you're paying starters 20, 25, 30, 40 freaking $million, while the bullpen arms are basically always in the most important part of the games. I think, you know what? Do it this way. You want to keep Verlander, fine. You got Sanger and Verlander. You could do worse as your number 1 and number 2. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, and I still think there is teams that would take Verlander on their team if the money wasn't so high. I think they would. 3, 4, 5, I mean, let it be up for grabs. I don't think anybody is worth giving any type of long-term contract to. Nola, Urias, Giolito. It doesn't matter. Any of those. I don't think any of them are very good. They have injury concerns. I don't trust them at all. I mean, Giolito got rocked by the New York Mets, and nobody likes the New York Mets offense, and yet he got rocked by the New York Mets. So I don't trust any of those guys. I think Snell's a waste of time. He's a disaster. Nola, every big game he pitched, he finally looked good in the playoffs. But other than that, any big game over the last couple of years, he was the ace of the staff, and then Wheeler came and says, go F yourself. And that was basically it. Nola's basically done with that. So, listen, guys, couple of days, 7 days until the deadline, 6 games left for the New York Mets. What are they going to do? It's going to be buyers, sellers, or staying pat. Obviously, it's going to be one of those 3 at least. A lot of us are hoping that they do one of them or maybe do a combination of both. And before we finish up here, somebody brought up an idea of if somebody's willing to take Jeff McNeil and the contract to get a pretty good bullpen arm, would you do it? I mean, that was an interesting one. Somebody brought up, I don't know if it was in the chat or not. I know Nelson can't stand McNeil, and I'm one of those guys that I would have traded them 2 years ago when everybody wanted them. Yeah, I mean, is it possible that somebody would still believes in Jeff McNeil and saying it's just a down year, and maybe the Mets can get something back for him? I don't know. Anybody can just jump in.
I volunteer to take Jeff McNeil to wherever he needs to go. I'll even pitch in to get him his toy car that he's been crying about, or fans have been crying about.
I didn't know Lindor, so you might have more money to pay for a car.
The biggest concern with McNeil this year, and I hate to sound like this, but I really do think it's the shift limitations on him. And I just think that Jeff has just been so fixated on the idea of them shifting against him and him being able to beat it, where now he doesn't necessarily have that to think about, and he also doesn't have that luxury physically, as you have two defenders on one side and 2 defenders on the other.
So do you think he's just not a good hitter, and it just the shift was making him a better hitter than he actually was?
I think probably, yeah. I mean, McNeil's, like I said, McNeil's not a power guy. He's not going to have a hard launch angle. He's not going to have a high launch angle. He's not going to have a hard exit velocity. He's not going to have an exit velocity of 100 miles per hour. No, that's not McNeil. He's a bat-to-ball guy, bloops, BABIP. That's his stuff right there. Yeah, the power has gone down a little bit. We've seen a decent amount of fly balls that could have been home runs. Like we said, he's not a home run hitter, that have kind of just died out on right field. And maybe last year or 2019 could have went. 2019 was such a weird year for him. I mean, first half, base hit, and then second half, just home run. Strikeouts did go up a little bit in results of that, but McNeil, I just think it's a mixture of the shift. I don't think the pitch clock's anything with that. I know someone asked me that once. I don't think the pitch clock has anything to do with it. I really think it's the shift limitations. His stand looks very identical to the last 4 years he's been in the league. So I don't really think it's anything with the stance. We do see the launch angle swing a little bit. I know. Yeah, Rob and I have discussed that. We do see the launch angle swing where we see that. And obviously that's not McNeil's game. So that's resulting into a couple amount of strikeouts and a lot of pop-ups, but he's just not going to the opposite way at all. I mean, you show me any game of 2022 of Jeff McNeil. He's hitting the ball in between the shortstop and third baseman, right? Mm-hmm. He's not doing that this year. All of his hits have been up the middle or in between the first and second baseman. So I really don't know. And I mean, the opposite field percentage rate, I don't know what it is this year. It's probably much different. I could probably get back to you in a couple of minutes on that. But yeah, McNeil, like I said, you'd be surprised. I mean, you look at the batted ball profile, ground ball percentage is around the same. Fly balls have gone down. But it's the stuff like pulling the ball has gone up. Opposite field has gone down tremendously. Weak contact has gone up, which, that doesn't surprise anyone. Under, so he's getting under a lot of balls has gone up. Barrels have gone down significantly, but doesn't really matter. But yeah, I think the biggest thing with McNeil is probably the shift. And I know it sounds like a really dumb excuse, but I really do believe it. I guess I don't think it's the car. I know people say, "Oh, Lindor car." I don't think he cares that much about it. I mean, listen, get him the car, cool. But I really think McNeil is a good ball player. I just think, again, he's a very mental guy, and he's having 2021 was a different year. I really think this is much different. And you never know. I mean, listen, what the future holds for McNeil, who knows? I know people say, "Oh, trade him." I could easily see him turning into a 2016 Daniel Murphy Washington Nationals. I mean, that would kill me. But we'll see. I think the biggest thing, the golf swing is definitely big, Hector. But I really wonder what the hitting coach is approach with McNeil. And this is what J.D. Davis came out and trashed the Mets on. Is they changed the hitting coach. I mean, and I know it's not Cohen's fault with the 3 GMs and the 5 hitting coaches they've had, but I mean, if I'm an athlete, any sport, football, hockey, imagine constantly changing your coach, and coach has a different game plan, has a different agenda. So you know how hard that could be? I don't know if McNeil, I don't think it's Eric Chavez. People have proposed that. I don't think it is either. I really think it's the shift. That's simple. And sorry for the rant, but
no, that's cool.
I love to rant about silly batted ball stuff, but I really do think it is the shift.
Yeah, and you know what? Right before that trade with the Mariners with Diaz and Cano happened, there was a lot of talk that Seattle really wanted Jeff McNeil with everybody else that was going along. And you know what? The Mets would have put in Jeff McNeil and budged on that. Maybe Kelenic would have been still a Met prospect and might have been here, even though he decided to kick the trash can and break his foot. Yeah, I mean, that was a possibility. So, I mean, I don't know about Jeff McNeil. I wanted to trade him after the 2021 season. I know he was the batting champion in 2022. I think he has weird years, and maybe the shift is really what made him a good hitter. And I think the analytics got to his head in 2021 and became a launch angle home run type of guy, and that's why the average is down. But this year, if he doesn't hit
hitting coach,
if he doesn't hit 300, he does do nothing else well. He's not a good enough defensive player to say play him on the field. He's not a home run hitter. He's not a run producer. So he's basically pointless in a lineup. So, guys, a week until the deadline, 6 p.m. on August 1st. I am doing a 24-hour show. Yes, I am crazy. I don't know why I'm doing it, but I thought it would be cool to do it. I done a lot of free agent frenzies during the offseason would lasted like 10 hours, which was a lot of fun with a lot of people. I will make you guys save me during that time for like an hour or so. During that stretch, if you guys want to join in, you can always join in. I'll give everybody that been on my channel the link to show up to talk about the deadline and all that. So yeah, a 24-hour show. Again, August 1st, 6 p.m. is the deadline. So 24 hours from them is the end of July, 6 p.m. that night. And we're going to go all the way through. Yes, you'll see me eat. You'll see me drink. You see my cat Shay make a couple appearances, but it will be fun. And it's going to be a lot of Mets conversation because the Mets are probably numero uno when it comes to either buyers, sellers, or staying pat. A lot of conversations with a lot of players. So everybody, we'll start with Hayden. Just say your final thoughts, and then we'll go to Chris and Nelson to say your final thoughts, and we'll call it a night, guys. So Hayden, start it off.
Yeah, Mets Talk with Hayden here. Raging is the game, of course. But I appreciate everyone for tuning in on All's channel. I know it sucks. Trust me, I hate being negative. I mean, I rewatched these back, and I'm like, damn, you sound really negative. But, I mean, there's really not much I could say to be positive. Francisco Alvarez will hit 30 home runs there. I guess that's a positive to look at. But no, appreciate everyone for tuning in. It was a good stream discussing everything on everyone's channel. It was great to work with Nelson and Chris. Super excited for the future streams that will be coming down the line. Listen, I know it's been a really rough season, very disappointing, high expectations, and unfortunately, we're not seeing the results we want to see. Who knows? Maybe they'll turn it around. Maybe they won't. But you know what? We have plenty of more years, plenty of more seasons for Mets baseball. They're not going anywhere, and hopefully we're not going anywhere. So, like I said, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I love GM. Let's go Mets, and let's try and take the series from the Yankees. Otherwise, split it. Nationals, try and take it. Otherwise, split it. And yeah, I love GM. Let's go Mets, guys.
Yeah, Chris.
Yeah, appreciate it again, Rob. Always fun to do these shows, even when the Mets aren't performing too well. I'm a little bit more optimistic about 2024. I think there's some good things to look forward to, especially if the Mets played their cards right this deadline, this offseason. I think Cohen might want to get some revenge after a lost season 2023. And I think that we'll be seeing a really good team next year. But it's just that time in between. Thank goodness we have football season coming up. So make sure you subscribe to my channel at CPNY Sports to be going over some football things as well. I'm a Giants fan. But yeah, it's going to be a really, really interesting football season for New York. So all across New York. But yeah, the Mets. I think the Mets eventually split this Yankee series. I think Verlander will pitch well. That 24-hour show that you do, Rob, is going to be a hell of a stream. I can already imagine. So if you shoot the link over, I'll definitely pop in when I can. Chop it up with you, talk about some deadline moves. Hopefully the Mets are active. Hopefully the Mets are active sellers. Unless anything unforeseen changes between now and that August 1st deadline in the standings, which I don't think one is going to happen. Two, I don't think it's going to be any indication of the Mets needing to buy regardless. I think you sell off the appropriate pieces, maintain the guys who will help you next season. There's a couple guys borderline that I would love to see back that you could trade this season and then potentially re-sign in the offseason. Tommy Pham, number one. David Robertson, number two. Because I can only imagine when Edwin Diaz comes back, whoever they get for that seventh inning, if Rayleigh's still there, Rayleigh, Robertson, Edwin Diaz, I'm taking that all day long for 7, 8, 9. And that's a recipe. You just got to find the sixth inning. Whoever's going to toss that sixth inning, if our starters are going 5, and I hope I hope it's not Drew Smith. So I appreciate the time. I appreciate everybody here on the stream. Tune into the Interstate Mets Report every Tuesday at 5 p.m. We're streaming tomorrow. Nelson and I are. That's our show outside of this one. and also Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So a lot of good Mets content at CPNY Sports on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Subscribe, follow, all that good stuff, and definitely looking forward to doing more Roundtable podcasts with you all. I think you guys are great, and we make the best out of this lost season. So I really enjoy it. Thank you.
Absolutely, man. Nelson, finish it up, my friend.
Yeah, no, I can't. Not much to add. I'll keep it short. Chris already plugged the show. Please head over to at Amish Country Mets Fan. That's my YouTube page. Give me a subscribe there. Thank you guys for having us on. Love doing this. Look forward to doing more with you guys. Thank you for everybody that tuned in tonight. I saw tons of comments. You guys are awesome. Yeah, expectations are whatever. Like, I'm kind of with Hayden. Like, just get a couple splits, whatever. Hopefully, I'm down to this. I've said it time and time again. I'm down to sell. So hopefully the trade deadline is active, and I'd love to jump on that 24-hour stream with you as well at some point. So that sounds like a good time. So yeah, man, thanks for having me. Thanks to everybody that watched. Look forward to doing more of these, and let's go Mets.
Yes, sir. All right, guys. So there it is, guys. So make sure you subscribe to their channels, check out their content as always. And before we go, I just wanted to let you guys know today actually, I got an email from Bleacher Report producer that runs their app, and they do live streams a couple of times a week for almost every team throughout all the sports, throughout every country, everywhere. And they got in contact with me, and they want me to do a 30-minute Mets live stream about the trade deadline, and to come up with trade scenarios, sellers and buyers, if the Mets are. So I got the opportunity to do that tomorrow, and it's going to be, I guess, ongoing. The producer got in contact with me. I got with their tech support people who are going to be running me through their content studio that they're working with, that they're launching in the summer, and they want me to put it up. It's not going to be on my channel because it's copyrighted yet. I don't have that access yet. But if you guys have the Bleacher Report app, or want to check it out, the content is there, and I will have access once everything is uploaded to their app. I will have access to promote it everywhere else. So once that happens, I'll let you guys know. So if you have a chance, check it out. If not, as soon as I get the access to it, I will put it out there for everybody, most likely on social media, until I'm allowed to put it on YouTube and get the rights to that content. So with that said, guys, thanks everybody for tuning in to another roundtable. Hayden, Chris, Nelson, always great with you guys. Until next week, guys, let's see what happens. The next time we meet, the deadline will be officially over, most likely. So have a great night. As always, Mets fans, let's go Mets. We'll see you next time, guys. Have a great night.
Let's go Mets.
I love GM, baby.